You're tuned to mission-driven, volunteer-powered WMNF Tampa, where music, news, and culture collide.
Hi, this is Tom Scherberger, former host of WMNF's Wavemakers. I hope you'll join me for the launch of a new in-person speaker series called Wavemakers Live. I'll be your host for lively conversations with people making a difference around Florida and Tampa Bay. We kick things off August 21st with WMNF's own Nadine Smith. You know Nadine as the host of the Wide Awake America Public Affairs Show, but she's also the co-founder of Equality Florida, where she's been fighting for equal rights for 30 years and was one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. We'll talk about how the right-wing agenda nationally has its roots in Florida and how Florida can provide a blueprint for resistance. Join us on August 21st at 7:30 p.m. at the Commodore in Ybor City. Tickets are $10 in advance and $15 at the door. Doors open at 7. Space is limited, so buy your tickets now on WMNF.org.
Thank you for tuning in to WMNF Radio 88.5 FM. This is the public affairs program called Community Speaks, and I'm your host, Patro Mobili. The U.S. is highlighted on an International Human Rights Watch list for sustained attacks on civil freedoms under this POTUS. We got to talk about the economics of incompetence, the rage against the regime protests that happened over the weekend. Did you participate? You can talk to us today about that, and also the brutal arrest of a black student in Florida shows the benefits of recording police from a new vantage point. Not just the body cam, but from the cameras on your cell phone inside your car. So we'll get some more details about that, and we'll talk about the crisis of police brutality that still is going on across the United States, not just here in Florida. So you want to keep tuning in for that. And of course, you can call us. This is Community Speaks here on 88.5. Today on Community Speaks, and especially that arrest that led to this discussion we're going to hear today about police accountability and the limitations of the body cams, because more than 1,000 people died after police across the United States used force that was not intended to be lethal. So we'll get a questions and answer session on lethal restraint deaths from AP investigation, the Associated Press investigation of encounters in which police use force that is not supposed to be lethal. So you can call me 813-239-9663 to join me in a discussion here on Community Speaks. We'll talk about police brutality, those issues, as well as the issues of the economic incompetence we are seeing played out in this United States right now, in the middle of a hiring freeze, and then the threat to the integrity of data that is needed for Social Security's cost of living adjustment. All of that is concerning right now, especially for Social Security recipients. So we got to talk about economic incompetence and talk about some historic milestones before we get out of it today here on Community Speaks. I wanted to share this conversation about the body cam video. We start there here on Community Speaks because more than 1,000 people died after the police across the United States used force that wasn't intended to be lethal. And here in Florida, last week we saw a student in Florida who recorded himself with his cell phone in hopes of getting a new vantage point and not just rely on the police body cams to do this. I was hoping to bring a little bit of a conversation about the Jacksonville situation here in Florida that happened. We'll get more of that, but we'll start to talk about police brutality when we listen to this Associated Press investigation. Keep it tuned right here on Community Speaks.
Okay, good morning.
I just realized we are both just back from vacation. It will feel like a distant memory in 2 days.
Now, how about now?
Right now. In a couple hours.
A new round of import tariffs is set to take effect this week on goods from countries around the world.
President Trump insists they'll usher in an economic boom for the U.S., but do the numbers back that up?
I'm Michelle Martin, that's Leila Fadel, and this is Up First from NPR News. Cross-border trade feels better. They say the uncertainty is paralyzing.
Well, looks like we're not going to be able to get that audio sound to you today, talking about the videos that was recording police brutal arrest of a black student in Florida. But the point of this discussion was to show that the benefits of recording your own video during, police arrest from your own vantage point. This video was showing this violent arrest of this black student, William McNeil Jr. in Jacksonville. His dashboard-mounted cell phone captured footage of the officers beating him during a February traffic stop. That was back in February. The footage, which went viral when posted online last month, shows officers smashing McNeil's window and hitting him. And those actions are not clearly visible on the police body cam, but experts suggest that car cameras can offer a unique perspective and protect against false claims. And the arrest has led to the discussions about police accountability and the limitations of body cams. And we're looking to see the political fallout. This happened back in February. We didn't get the footage until last month, but this video captured this arrest. And the student, William McNeil Jr., he captured his traffic stop on his cell phone. And since he had no foresight to record the encounter from inside the vehicle, or he had the foresight, they were not able to come up with any stories that made him look like a criminal. But we got to see firsthand and hear firsthand and put it all in context what driving while black is in the United States. And that was a statement from civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who went to Jacksonville, one of several lawyers advising McNeil. He was pulled over on this day back in February because officers said that his headlights should have been on due to the bad weather at the time. And his lawyer said His camera shows him asking the officer what he did wrong, and seconds later, the officer smashes his windows, striking him as he sat in the driver's seat, and then pulls him out from the car and punches him in the head. Second time. First time, you might could get away with saying it, you feared for your life, but the second time is not possible. But the footage from the cell phone made it impossible for the cops to come up with a story to make William McNeil Jr. look like some kind of out-of-control criminal and justified the police actions. Nothing so far is justifying the police actions, but the political fallout, we should know in a red state that they will do whatever they can to protect the police officers. But after being knocked to the ground, McNeil was punched 6 more times in his right thigh. And that was what the police report states. And so these reports are important to know about, and we cover them. We like to see what the fallout is going to be politically. But one thing I want to certainly know, that his civil rights will ultimately be protected. Hopefully, we'll continue to follow and see what happens to McNeil. But he's hardly the first black motorist to record video during a traffic stop that turned violent. The same thing happened in another state. We might remember the name Philando Castile. His girlfriend was live streaming when the bloody aftermath of his death during a 2016 traffic stop near Minneapolis. McNeil's arrest serves as a reminder of how cell phone video can show a different version of events than what is described by police reports. And so we're going to continue to see the fallout from that. There was a discussion on a report that was done on this subject. I was hoping to share that with you today. Doesn't look like we can get that audio up. But we're also, we're going to have plenty of opportunity to talk about that particular issue as we watch for the fallout there. You were hearing a little bit earlier, we were also going to talk about the U.S. economic outlook in this country as we're seeing economic incompetence. We saw a president fire somebody because he didn't like the numbers. And we were talking about how people have been protesting over the weekend on various issues because this regime is hurting people across the board. Time magazine has highlighted an international human rights watch list for sustained attacks on civil rights under this POTUS. And as people are raging against their regime, they're raging against these types of issues. This organization is called Civicus, C-I-V-I-C-U-S. This is a network of civil society activists and groups that aim to strengthen citizens' action around the world, including right here in the United States. And to its watch list in March, the United States was added, raising concerns about declining civil liberties after POTUS's return to office. And the organizations argue that there has been escalated suppression since then, since he's been returned to office, including the deployment of the military against protesters and targeting of journalists covering demonstrations, the moves to defund and hobble nonprofits, and the aggressive targeting of immigrants who advocate for Palestine. The latest watch list also highlighted a decline in civil space in El Salvador, Indonesia, Kenya, Serbia, and Turkey, though the country's placement on civil liberties rating systems vary. The system includes progressively severe ratings of open, narrowed, and repressed, obstructed, and closed societies. The country rated as an open society is described by the organization as a state that both enables and safeguards the enjoyment of civil space and has low levels of fear, whereas the country considered closed has what it considers complete closure in law and in practice of civil spaces. Think North Korea. But the United States is joining along a list of pariah nations in the United States since the return of this POTUS to the White House. So we could talk about what all of that means, especially if you participated in the Rage Against the Regime. Are you still raging against the regime today? We could talk about it here on Community Speaks. You can call me at 813-239-9663, or you could write me, DJ, at WMNF.org. DJ at WMNF.org. So many things that I want to share with you today. I wanted to share that sound with you today, but I'll continue to look for that as we wait for your telephone calls. So you can call me, 813-239-9663. This is Community Speaks, an opportunity to speak with you about this community. And also over the weekend, we're going to talk. I wanted to mention to you a couple of historical events. Well, talk about the historical Jackson House, which is starting to crumble even more just days after the segregation era rooming house was slated to be, the city council decided it would approve an agreement to help restore the historic Jackson rooming house, which is on Zack Street here in Tampa. The house began to crumble a little bit more over the weekend. There's a local citizen named Adrienne Rodriguez of Tampa. She says she's been taking photos of the house for the last 3 years and sent photos taken on July 29th and August 2nd. The latter photo shows a large portion of wooden siding on the building's east side, second floor, has fallen down. And for years, the Jackson House Foundation has been trying to restore the house, a vestige of the Jim Crow era, and a reminder of a time when black travelers were forced into segregated travel accommodations. This house served those black travelers. And so people want to preserve it as a historical icon. It's a place that was a necessity in Jim Crow segregation era Tampa. There's a supported council decision. There was a lot of people who supported the city council's decision to help restore the house. But it's an agreement between the city and Accardi Properties, owners of the parking lot next to the Jackson House. It will grant an easement to the city so that the Jackson House can have the necessary space around the building for restoration. So all of the cards are in place. All you need to do now is to get the work started on that. The foundation has raised more than $4 million through public and private donations to have the house restored. But time is of the essence, especially after what happened over the weekend to that house. So that's one historic piece of history I wanted to share with you. But the other, something you're probably not used to hearing us talk about, especially me talk about it, and that is the Indianapolis 500. The race car driver Bubba Wallace made some history last Sunday, when he won on the Indianapolis 500 race course, a major race course. He became the first black driver to win a major race on Indianapolis Motor Speedway's 2.5-mile oval. No black driver has won the Indianapolis 500 and Formula One race on the track's road course. So hats off to Bubba Wallace. He's been in it for quite some time. Just wanted to share a little bit of good news. I haven't really seen a whole lot of fanfare since last Sunday around Bubba Wallace's win. I'm sure Indianapolis will continue. The Indianapolis 500 will continue to try to find a way to talk about it, but it just amazes me that there wasn't more fanfare around that historic win for Bubba Wallace. So do you want to talk? 813-239-9663 is the number to call. We're halfway through the program right now, just about. And up next, of course, we're going to get back to the music. This is a public affairs program called Community Speaks, but next hour we'll get back to the music with It's the Music Monday with Blaney Whalen, bringing you some of the greatest sounds, especially historical sounds, but today's music as well. But it's always a good show. You know, get back into the music next hour. But right now, we're talking about these economic issues as well as these historical issues that we are facing in the United States right now as part of Community Speaks. We were talking earlier about the economic issues. Social Security retirees just got this bad news from the president. He's imposed a hiring freeze across federal agencies that has hindered the Bureau of Labor Statistics' ability to track inflation because he didn't like the numbers. Questionable inflation data raises concerns about whether Social Security's 2026 cost of living adjustment, or COLA, will be accurate. And POTUS's firing of the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner Erica McIntyre threatens to politicize the independency of the agency and to further erode confidence in inflation data. 23,000. The president has promised on several occasions to protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid during this campaign. Last year, he has not overtly broken his promise not to cut Social Security benefits, but his federal hiring freeze and the decision to fire the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner could still hurt retirees and other benefits. So we're going to keep a close watch on how that is the statistics that the government is going to be relying on and how that's going to impact everything going forward, especially the cost of living adjustments. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. But did you engage in the rage against the regime over the weekend? I want to hear from you. 813-239-9663. Apparently, a lot of people right here in Tampa took part in this nationwide protest. And just wanted to know if you were motivated to go out and join that protest, especially given the fact that the United States under this POTUS is considered a pariah nation. And this is going to be an interesting next 3 years as people start to feel the crisis, start to feel the problems in their everyday lives. And that's what really wakes people up in this society. But like I said, it has been put on this watch list by Civicus. It was a network of civil society activists and groups that aims to strengthen citizens' actions around the world. And so the United States is now considered a pariah nation because of these tariffs, because of its foreign policy, its attack on allies, and its embrace of other pariahs like Russia and North Korea. And we've seen that in the first term, not so much in the second term, this particular term of this POTUS. But the fact that Russia invaded another country, breaking international rules, you would expect a president to be a little more forceful than this president has been. But he is making very weak assessments on what he's going to do, what he might do, doing really something that I considered irresponsible, sending the nuclear submarine, knowing he's not going to do anything with it. But this is just another action on a part of a president that doesn't seem to know what he's really doing. And that's really been my cause of concern all this time. But we're going to go to the telephone lines. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. Maybe there's some issues that I haven't spoken about yet that you think are major issues that we need to talk about right now. But we're going to go to the telephone line and talk to Art in Largo. Thank you, Art, for calling. You say what?
Well, you're welcome. Always enjoy your program, Billy. You're such a man that understands and studies the situation very well. My reason for calling, two reasons. First of all, I was one of the protesters. Even though I'm in my 80s, I find I'm invigorated when I go to these protests. And I attended the one in St. Pete. And what I've noticed is that the numbers keep increasing every time I go there. And that's very, very encouraging. And the horns keep blowing in favor of what we are saying, more so than in the past. So I do encourage a lot of you to show up, because this is the one of the best ways you can protest, besides phoning your legislators regularly. What I would like to ask you is, because I don't know the answer, why is it that these kidnappings keep going on of the immigrants, illegal or legal, doesn't matter to the administration. Why is it going on? Why hasn't it stopped? Because due process is not involved. What does it take for the Justice Department or whatever to stop this?
I don't know. They need to stop acting like personal lawyers for this POTUS. You know, the Justice Department, they're acting like they work for him, not for the Constitution. And so a normal Justice Department would have long put an end to it. But same thing goes for the Congress. The Republicans in Congress are just rubber stamping, which is what authoritarians depend on. And so is the Supreme Court. So all three divisions of power are basically just rubber stamping each other right now. I don't know. They're not going to do anything to stop it until they start losing office. So maybe after the midterm, things would start to change.
Does it require a class action suit, and that's why some of these judges are not doing a darn thing? I heard that was reason given for one issue. Do you think that's a valid response, that these judges need a class action suit?
Yeah, that was the response that the Supreme Court pushed people into, because they were trying to say that one single judge in a lower court should not be allowed or able to stop a president's executive order. So the only way around that response to that was to get everybody involved who was impacted by it and approach it as a class action. That was what the Supreme Court pushed people into doing.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much. I knew I'd get some response from you, and they're always accurate. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling. All right.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Forever.
speak the truth. That's what we try to do here, or we do here at WNF, and especially here on Community Speaks. And I want to hear from you, 813-239-9663. As I mentioned earlier, we're talking also about the economic issues. The U.S. employers are slashing their hiring as this POTUS advances his punishing trade agenda. The U.S. is hiring, companies hiring is sharply slowing as this erratic and radical trade policies paralyze businesses and raise doubts about the outlook for the world's largest economy. The Labor Department reported Friday that the U.S. employers added 73,000 jobs last month, well short of the 115,000 forecasted that had been expected, and worse, revisions shaved a stunning 258,000 jobs off May and June payrolls. And the unemployment rate ticked up to over 4%. The chief U.S. economist at BMO Capital said that a notable deterioration in U.S. labor markets conditions appears to be underway. So the U.S. is this slow down in hiring is going to cause a lot of problems. It is clear people are feeling the rug pulled out from under them, whether you're a federal worker or you're working for a private company. U.S. hiring is slowing sharply. The notable deterioration in U.S. labor market conditions appears to be underway, and that's according to Scott Anderson, the chief U.S. economist at BMO Capital Markets. You can call me 813-239-9663. The U.S. markets are recoiled at the jobs report, and so this POTUS likes to move markets. Well, he moved it way down on Friday. It's starting to show some recovery today, but there's still too much uncertainty in the air. Too many people lost their jobs, and the people who put the statistics together, the woman who put the statistics together for the Labor Department just got fired because he didn't like the numbers. What happens when he doesn't like the next set of numbers? You know, every 3 months, every quarter, we're going to get some numbers, and every week you get some jobs numbers. And his incompetence is clearly ruining this economy. It's completely tanking right now. He said that he's discarded decades of U.S. efforts to lower trade barriers globally, instead imposing hefty import taxes, and so in the form of tariffs on products from almost every country on earth. This POTUS believes that the levies will bring manufacturing back to the United States and raise money to pay for the massive tax cuts he signed into law. I don't know how his logic works, because prices are just going to continue to rise, and people are going to continue to lose momentum in their economic lives. Mainstream economists warn that the cost of the tariffs will be passed along to U.S. citizens, both businesses and households, and that has begun already. We're seeing companies like Walmart and Procter & Gamble, all of these companies, Best Buy, Adidas, Nike, Mattel, Temu, they've all hiked up their prices due to the tariffs. They're blaming it completely on the tariffs. Economists at Goldman Sachs estimates that overseas exporters have absorbed just a small amount of the rising costs from tariffs, while the U.S. and U.S. businesses, citizens and businesses, have picked up the lion's share of the tab. So this POTUS has sowed uncertainty in the erratic way. He's rolled the tariffs out, announcing, then suspending them, then coming up with new ones. And overnight, POTUS signed an executive order that set new tariffs on a wide swath of U.S. trading partners to go into effect later this week, August 7th. And that comes into a flurry, after a flurry of unexpected tariff-related actions this week. He's just all over the place with that, because he clearly is incompetent. Clearly doesn't know what he's doing, and 77 million voters voted for this incompetence. Really, because you were warned, you were told about all of this by economists. You were told this was going to happen, and everybody just wrote it off. And anytime he was caught in his corruption, being corrupt, you just wrote it off when the courts tried to hold him accountable. You said they're just weaponizing the Justice Department. You're weaponizing state courts. So, no, you've been warned. You were warned about all of this happening, and we're now the laughingstock of the world as we see the economic conditions that are raging out of control right now. You can call me 813-239-9663, but of course next hour we'll get back to the music with Blaney Whalen, who's joining me right now. Hi, Blaney.
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good.
Am I turned on?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, since you are talking about the tariffs, one thing that it doesn't seem like the news is covering very much is Brazil.
Yeah.
And where the president is threatening a 50% tariff, and unless they drop the charges against the autocrat,
Right.
Bolsonaro.
Right.
And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that on my show. But one thing that really stood out is President Lula da Silva said, quote, "Maybe he doesn't know that here in Brazil, the judiciary is independent." And I praise the president for standing up to him. And it's worth maybe not having our orange juice or Brazilian coffee for a while. I'm proud that this leader is standing up to him.
And somebody needs to.
Yeah, and I think more of them do, and it's like he's blackmailing people in a sense, and legally, and I don't know how he's getting. How do you think he's getting away with that?
There's no pushback right now from the other divisions of power, and that's how. I mean, if he can come up with any policy and knowing that the Supreme Court is going to rubber stamp it, why not do it? Just throw it out there and see what he can get away with. And he's been doing that. And can this be held up for 3 years? I don't know. With raging against the regime marches, it probably won't. But it looks like he's purposely trying to make himself tone deaf because there's nobody to push back.
No, not at all. It's everybody are just yes people, you know, to him. And well, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that is something legal and, trying to get an autocrat out of having a trial in another country? That's meddling. Is that legal? Is there any lawyers out there that have an opinion on that?
I'd like to know.
Yeah, me too. It just seems to me one thing after another that this president is doing is just totally illegal, but nothing happens. Of course, he's got his own judges now, too, and fires anybody who he thinks he disagrees with, like you were talking earlier. It's just crazy. It
is. And the fact that we, the people, have allowed it to go on this long or just returned him to office, I'm still stuck on that. How did so many smart people ignore the truth in front of their face and return him back to office, knowing he was going to be on a revenge tour and knowing how incompetent he is?
Yeah. Somehow or another, I think for the very wealthy that are supporting him, they feel that they're financially going to do better. But what about the people that are blindsided and don't even want to accept the fact that things aren't going well? Right.
Especially those poor people who voted for the Republicans, voted for this regime. Maybe they thought that they weren't going to be hurt. Maybe he was going to do whatever he could do to protect, especially those states that are red, And what we're seeing is that tariffs don't know the difference between red and blue. The economy doesn't care. It just knows that there is no activity going on when there's no support behind it. And he's defunded so many things. He's fired so many people in the private sector because of tariffs have had to do the same thing. So where does that leave everybody? It leaves everybody high and dry and uncertain and wondering what's going to happen in the economy. People are writing, though. people are writing missives about what they're seeing happen. One person has written that industrialized, colonized nations, power that be, find themselves face to face and in fight with people that seek equality at least, and feel fear that people they think are less of a human may be smarter than them, and expose their ignorance, forcing the colonialist police to live less of an in-power life. That's just the first part of an email. That's a very interesting email. I'm going to read more of that with you later. Thank you for that. But you can email me, 813, you can call me, 813-239-9663, or you can email me as well by emailing dj@wmnf.org. That was Blaney Whalen. She's going to come up next with she's going to get us back to the music next hour. But thank you, Blaney Whalen, for chiming in. We got a few minutes left here on Community Speaks, but that's what this show is all about. You, the community, speaking. And thank you, Blaney, for speaking up. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. One emailer has written saying that there won't be any midterms. And he's not going to leave voluntarily. So you may or may not be right about that. Of course, elections are carried out at the state level and administered at the county level. So it'd be kind of hard to get everybody to go along with a program of not carrying out the midterm elections. The president isn't participating, isn't on any ballot in a midterm election. That's why it's midterm. It's not a presidential election. But he has gotten compliance and complacency from his party, the stalwarts in his party, because they fear being, quote unquote, primaried in the midterm elections or primaried in the next presidential election. So we're going to see a presidential election because everybody be paying more attention than they do in a midterm election. But he's been threatening to primary them in the upcoming midterm. And I say that they should start laughing at that threat at this point, because, you know, you're going to rise and fall on what you did or did not do to stop an autocrat. Another emailer has written about the Jackson House. Just wanted to say that they have pulled over sometimes driving. Actually, he's talking about a couple of things. I think he's talking about the police, actually, in this one. I said Jackson House, but he's talking about the Jacksonville arrest. Sorry about that, but he wanted to say that this emailer says that he was pulled over, sometimes driving dirty, sometimes not, but have been pulled over by silly reasons before, including suspicion of character, knowing that he hadn't done anything wrong. And a lot of people feel that way. Even though you know everything's right, you see a cop behind you, you just, especially a black man, you could end up beaten or killed, and you didn't do anything wrong. Another emailer has written 95% of the people voted for what he's calling the orange goblin. The majority of them think he's doing a great job, that Kool-Aid must be delicious. See, so they're drinking the Kool-Aid that's poisoned. These are also the same folks crying about the economy, totally brainwashed. So yeah, they use the economy and inflation as a reason to, as a permission platform to vote for this guy, knowing, maybe not accepting in their head that he was incompetent, but knowing that what everybody was saying, what economists were saying in real time about his plans, should have clued them into what we're going through right now. We're going to go to Joel, see what Joel has to add to this conversation. Joel, you say what?
Hello. Well, I always look at the long-term goal, and the long-term goal of Trump is to create enough chaos that and enough arrests of people with his Gestapo to there'll be some kind of violence, and he'll declare martial law, and there'll be no more elections, or there'll be a civil war, and he can get all the Army and ICE agents and everybody else and all the militias out, and yeah, that's his goal. Stay in power, make money, stay in power.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. Yeah, I really don't. I mean, because that's simple.
I don't.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You say what now?
Well, Hitler, one of his quotes was, one of Trump's quotes was, I need generals like Hitler. He said that a couple of years ago. Well, he's got them, baby. And he's going to have more and more of them. And it's going to be, ICE got $30 billion for more ICE agents, and they got $6 billion to build more detention. Well, new one's going up, I think it's Tallahassee on a base by the National Guard base, and there's going to be another one in the Panhandle. And they're going to just start this mass deportation arrest thing. So there's going to be violence over that. Some ICE agent's going to get killed, and they're going to go nuts. So that's...
Well, so far the political violence is only coming from his people. They're the ones that go overboard.
It will come from our people eventually, because it's got to. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to fight these guys. Someone's going to kill one of these ICE agents, and that's going to be the big tipping point. Anyway, that's all. That's my opinion. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for your opinion. Of course, it's important because we need to know what are on some people's minds. But I think that, by using the Marines, by using the military on the borders, a lot of those people in the military are just bored at what they are being forced to do. This is not what they necessarily signed up for. And shooting civilians in the streets is probably not something that you're going to get a whole lot of people in the military to do. Not in this country. This is a volunteer military. These military people are us. Even if you send them to a state they're not from, I doubt that's going to be sustainable, where we're going to have the kind of violence that, is going to be perpetrated against the victims of these policies. If anything, it's going to be against the brain. It's going to be violence coming from the brainwashed people who want to continue to see this guy stay in power. And if that is the agenda, to create violence in order to create the preconditions to suspend elections and keep this guy in power, that's going to come from the right. Most likely it's going to come from the right. Yeah, people will defend themselves, as we saw at the agricultural plant in California. But people are pretty smart enough to know that he attacked California because California is a blue state, and it would be popular on his side of the political equation to attack a state like California. But even that is starting to come to an end, especially since you are having a hard time getting Marines to continue to go along with the plan to station themselves out there in California and be a sort of bulwark against civilian populations. 813-239-9663. Brought up a couple of issues, but we were talking about what is happening economically, the fact that the United States is on a pariah list by International Human Rights Watch list for a sustained attack on civil freedoms under this POTUS, and also the attack of black motorists in Florida. We're waiting to see what the political fallout would be here in Florida for that. And I wanted to share with you a conversation that was put together by members of the Associated Press. I don't know why that didn't work when it was working in rehearsal, but we'll get that information. We'll probably hear that conversation next week if I can get that to play right. But it didn't play today. I do apologize about that. Would have been a great driver for conversation. But again, the idea about the police brutality here in Florida was that what made it possible for William McNeil Jr. to still be alive today is the fact that he was recording from inside of his car with his own cell phone. So this new vantage point made it harder for the police to come up with another story to make them look like the heroes and this student look like a criminal. So we're going to see what happened, what the political fallout would be from that. But one thing is good. He didn't get shot and killed because police officer got mad, but he did get punched in the face, and he did get punched after he was pulled out of the car all over a traffic stop. He wasn't driving dirty. He wasn't doing anything wrong except questioning the police and asking for a supervisor, because it's hard for a young black man driving while black to trust white cops when they are stopped and you can end up losing their lives. It's happened way too often. But if you're not going to write and call, I think I'm going to go ahead and get on out and make room for the getting back to the music. But these are issues we're going to continue to talk about. Going to share conversations about police brutality because they've used force that was not intended to be lethal. They say 1,000 people have been killed across this nation in that way. And so that's an important conversation. I'm going to work to bring that to you next week. Meantime, we're talking about how the United States, employers in the United States have slashed their hiring. Numbers have been revised from the last couple of months. Since this POTUS has been in office, this country has fallen down economically, and it's all because of those tariff policies. So we're going to continue to talk about these issues, but keep it tuned right here. We're going to get back to the music right now. So thank you for listening to Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patrick Mobili, and I'll see you next week. Right now, we're going to get some more music from Johnny Osborne talking about truth and rights here on Community Speaks. And next week, next hour, rather, we're getting back to the music. Keep it tuned. WMNF Tampa.
Render your arts and not your garments. The truth is there for who have eyes to see. Partiality has no place in this judgment. Remember the words of prophecy. Children run, come to truths and rights. That's what I'm about. You know the truths and rights. Teach it to the children. Know the truths and rights. Teach it to the children, cause they should know. No, 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 no. Children, say a little prayer every night before you go to sleep. Cause tomorrow is promised to no one. When you think it's peace and safety, Lord, it could be sudden destruction. Cause we know, yes we know.
This is Community Speaks. Of course, up next, we're going to get back to the music. But first, we're going to get news update from the scoop. Thank you for joining me here on Community Speaks. WMNF Tampa.
Voices that inform, music that inspires. This is WMNF Tampa.
This is The Scoop for Monday.
I'm Sean Canan with the WMNF News headlines. Governor Ron DeSantis is encouraging sheriffs and police chiefs to fight to keep staff members, even as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement seeks to recruit Florida officers